No one chooses debilitating pain, nor do you choose the experience that comes along with it. The daily struggle, the fear, the sitting idle waiting for appointments or specialists, the frustration of doing all the things without any change to the pain you feel. While you did not choose the pain, you can choose to get back in the driver's seat once and for all. Welcome to the Chronic Pain Experience podcast. I am your chronic pain recovery coach and host, Dina Chopolis. Tune in as I explore the complexities of chronic pain recovery, the root cause of the pain you feel, and tools and techniques to help you on your way to a life well lived naturally. In this episode, I'm going to start to explore the three main questions that I receive all the time, and I think are probably some of the most important things to at least get you started off on your path to recovery. In this episode, we're going to cover off why you hurt. In the following episode, we're going to address why you're not getting better. And then finally, in the third installment of this podcast, I'm going to explore what it is you can do to help get you unstuck from pain and to be able to move forward on your recovery path. So stay tuned. And thanks so much, as always, for being here, for supporting our little self-made podcast, and for all your amazing comments and questions. My role as chronic pain coach and educator is to help you on your path to recovery through education, science-backed root cause resolution, and life skills. Essentially, helping you to bridge the gap from your primary caregiver to you, the chronic pain warrior. It is my mission to expand your understanding of pain in the hopes that it will help fill in some of the gaps, to bridge the gap between you and your primary caregiver, to put back some of the power into your court on your path to recovery, to help change the narrative of pain management, and finally, to help set the stage for more, because this is really just the beginning. Learning and understanding what pain does, how it works, what it means is the best place to start, but that's what it is. It's just a place to start. Just as a small disclaimer, this information is not to replace medical advice, but rather to complement the advice you are already getting from your current healthcare provider. Before we get going, I would love to know, where are you now? Where are you now on your path to recovery? Are you feeling like this is it, and this is the way it's always going to be for the rest of my life? Are you thinking perhaps that there is more to this life than what you've been offered or what you've been given? Or are you thinking that you believe there must be more, and there must be more things that you can do as a person who lives in pain? For all of these, just know that you're not alone. The reason why these podcast episodes are important is because, again, I want to try and fill in some of the gaps for you. Why? Because you live with pain for far too long. Because you've done all the things and you still hurt. Because you deserve answers. Because you're curious about what's going on inside there. Because you believe there must be more that you can do to improve your pain with lasting results. And maybe, just maybe, it means looking outside of the medical model. Because the information is out there. It is definitely out there. It's just not filtering down to those who need it most. Those who live with chronic pain and have done for some time. We have years and years of research. The unfortunate part is it takes time for that information to filter down to those who need it most, and then to implement these into new programs. So we still have a ways to go, but it doesn't mean you have to wait for that information. That is why you're here with me today, to help fill in some of those gaps. So when it comes to this podcast episode and the next two episodes after this one, I want you to be able to just to digest this content at your own pace, to whatever you need. Hit replay as many times as you need to really let these concepts sink in. And what I'm thinking you've done to be here so far, listening into this podcast, you've lived with life-altering pain for some time. You've been forced to change your way of life significantly because of the pain. You've been misunderstood and often not believed. You've been distanced from friends and from family, from social connections, and you're trying really hard to pull the pieces of the puzzle together so you can finally get some resolve from your pain. In the sea of information, you had the courage to click on this podcast, to remain curious, and to tune in. Regardless of the reasons for being here, thank you so much for tuning in. One of my favorite ways to be able to communicate with people is one-on-one. But when we don't have that opportunity, this is the second best way to communicate, is to be able to share with you on this podcast, on this platform, what information is important for you to truly understand what's going on with your pain, so that you can talk to your doctor differently, so that you can make informed decisions about your care, so that you can finally take the steps forward in a clear guided path to help you on your way. But before we go on, I just want to tell you a little story. This is my lovely and adorable husband. He lives with his own chronic pain story. He lives with a metabolic disorder. It's a rare genetic disorder. And I've been married to this lovely gentleman for over 26 years. And I've been in the pain industry for 8 years. And it is always really difficult to explain how pain works without sounding like you're convincing someone that it's all in their head. Because we know your pain is real. I know his pain is real. And I was trying to explain to him this premise of the nervous system and the role that it plays in your pain. And I noticed his look started to get really sad and dejected, and he got really quiet. And so I paused for a moment and I said, what's going through your mind? What are you thinking? And he said to me, I really feel like you're trying to tell me this is all in my head. And so you're not alone if you're feeling this way. I bring this up because oftentimes when you're talking to your physician or your primary caregiver, when they're trying their best to explain to you how the nervous system works, how the brain is a part of the pain experience, it often comes across as sounding like you are making this stuff up. And I'm here to tell you today that your pain is real. It is life-altering and it is absolutely debilitating. Period. All the research is leading towards the role of the brain, the role of the brain and the nervous system. And it is not a made-up issue. But I think this is an important thing to understand so that we can start to work with the brain and the nervous system to help get you unstuck from the pain that you know. So who is more prone to chronic pain? Well, those who suffered an injury originally from either a car accident, a work accident, a sporting injury, etc. We also know that those who lived with childhood adversity, or if you've taken the ACE test to see what sort of score you have for childhood adversity, if you had a higher score on that ACE test, then you are more likely to experience chronic pain. If you live or work in a stressful environment, if you are neurodivergent, let's say ADHD, or other forms of the spectrum, if you suffer from anxiety, if you have for many years. And then there's also genetics, but there's also epigenetics. And just as a reminder, the epigenetics is the environment around us and how it influences our genetic makeup. And so you may or may not be predisposed through your genetics, but with the environment around us, because our environment is very much a part of our chronic pain experience, I think it's an important angle to understand as well. Essential pain fact number one, we are highly adaptable as human beings. We are bioplastic, which we'll get into, and we are built for survival. So all of our systems that we've had thousands of years to refine and grow and change and evolve really are centered around our survival. And so all of our systems have this incredible capacity to change in response to demand. For example, growing muscle cells when we lift weights, or sweating more when we are acclimatizing, or learning to recognize a pathogen and eliminating it on next contact. Increasing our heart rate earlier on a hill after running up it a few times. The toughening of the skin in the form of calluses on hands and feet. Just like when I would carry my kid's car seat, I still have that callus on my hand, and that was from a long, long time ago. And then finally, changes to the nervous system with persistent pain. So these are all changes that we see in response to a demand that is put on your biology. Essential pain fact number 2. Pain is one of our alarm systems that is meant to protect and promote healing. Our protective system is predictive, intuitive, evaluative, dynamic, and modifiable. And here is where the hope lies. All our systems that are in protective mode, as you are in chronic pain, are absolutely modifiable. Not sure if you've been told that. Likely you have not. And so that is why this this episode is something I've been excited to get out to the world. You may or may not have heard that pain is just one of our protective systems. And over thousands of years, we've evolved a remarkable sensory system that is constantly detecting even small changes in the body and telling the brain about them. One component of this sensory system is the danger alarm system. And this is how our brain is warned. The alarm system compels us to do something so that the healing can begin right away. We're going to explore faulty alarm system examples. We're going to talk a little bit about the millions of sensors that you have all over your body and the alarm system command center. So, the alarm system, of course, just being your pain process. There are those who are born with a faulty alarm system, and it's called congenital pain insensitivity, where they are unable to feel pain. So you can imagine this little person who is curious about the fire and wants to get a little closer to just see what it's all about. And kids being kids want to touch things. So they put their hands on the grate and it's hot. And that little person does not know to pull their hand away because they do not receive pain signals from the brain. They cannot feel the pain. And so they could potentially receive a catastrophic injury. The same is true for diabetes, for leprosy. Not that diabetics can't feel pain, but their pain systems are severely altered. Same thing with leprosy, where they may do something or move in a certain way or won't get those pain signals to tell them, don't do that. It's not safe. You could get hurt. And so oftentimes they are experiencing catastrophic injuries as a result. So there are millions of sensors throughout your entire nervous system, and they are always surveying for activity. Again, for the sole purpose of keeping us alive. And there are different types of sensors. We have 3 distinct types. We have mechanical sensors, we have temperature sensors, and we have chemical sensors. And this diagram is coming from Neuroorthopedic Institute in Australia, or the NOI group. They have done some amazing research and are doing fantastic things at educating the public, but also primary caregivers as well. The mechanical sensors are responsible for picking up on changes in pressure, changes in posture. We have sensors who can pick up on changes in temperature, whether it be hot or cold. And then we have chemical changes. So whether it be chemical changes on the outside of our body or chemical changes on the inside, like when a bug comes into your system, our bodies can pick up on those. So our sensors are always working, always picking up information or data points. These sensors are responsible for sending danger messages to the spinal cord. Without persistent pain, these sensors are capable of an appropriate sensory response. They pick up on an appropriate amount of pressure or temperature changes or chemical changes. With persistent pain, these sensors become hypervigilant. And as a result, the brain produces more of these sensors to meet the demand. So not only do we have sensors that are much more hypervigilant, we also have more of those sensors being produced because it's just got to keep up with the demand. And the changes we see with these sensors with chronic pain, it takes less input for these sensors to send danger signals. There's this sensitization or this hypervigilance, which you'll hear me talk about throughout these 3 series of podcasts. And there's this increase in production of these sensors because our body, our brain are just trying to keep up with the demand. The good news is The life of a sensor, as in so many cells in our body, is short, and they really only live for a few days and then are replaced by fresh sensors. So the hope here is that your sensitivity is continually changing. So if you are living with sensitization now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to live with it forever. But what it does mean is that we need to take appropriate steps to help desensitize those oversensitized sensors. For our alarm system, we have a sort of a chain of command. The very first layer is your eyes, your ears, your nose, ready to pick up on any data input that's coming in. Is this something that I need to worry about? Is this something that's safe? Is this something that's pleasant? Or just outright dangerous? The second layer is this peripheral nervous system of ours, from the fingertips, the toes, working their way up to the spinal cord. And these ones pick up these messages and send them to the brain. The motherboard of pain is the brain. Ultimately, the brain decides the complexity of the situation. So, what you feel, the amount you feel, and how you would describe it. And then finally, what goes up must come down. So, the signal first comes from the down towards the up. And then there is this top down approach where the brain then has to determine, is this something I need to worry about? Do I need to do anything about this? And so there's this bottom up, top down approach. Ultimately, if the brain concludes you are in danger and you need to take action, it will produce pain, which is an impressive protective measure. And I'm hoping that this really sinks in for you. I'm going to say it one more time. If the brain concludes that you are in danger and you need to take action, it will produce pain. Now, the problem is when you live with pain long enough, those sensors and those increased number of sensors start to pick up on things that weren't once deemed to be dangerous, all of a sudden are being interpreted as danger. So your brain is always in a state of thinking, this is dangerous, I need to send pain signal after pain signal after pain signal. So here's an important reminder. Persistent pain or chronic pain overprotects us and prevents recovery. Whereas acute pain, it protects us and promote healing right away. Persistent pain overprotects and prevents recovery. If you've been stuck in chronic pain for some time, this is an important thing to hang your hat onto. Essential pain fact number 3. Pain is definitely a complex multi-system process, way bigger than we ever thought. The old view of pain is this idea that you stub your toe, the toe is sending a message up through the spinal cord to the brain saying, hey, there's pain here. I have a pain in my toe. And so much of what we do when we care for chronic pain currently is there's this old theory of pain, this sort of bottom up approach to pain, very simplistic. But we now know that there's so much more to it. This is where we're seeing some of the gaps in our current medical model is that we are stuck treating chronic pain as if it is much like acute, because that's what we always thought. And they feel the same, right? But they're very different. And so we need to treat differently. The new view of pain is multi-systemed, highly complicated, but pretty darn intuitive. So the modern view of pain, if you're with me here on YouTube, you can see the diagram in front of you. If you're listening to the podcast, I'll do my best to explain it to you. So if you were to stub your toe, not only is it the message from the toe, but we are getting into all of our systems, our musculoskeletal system, our digestive tract, our immune system, our adrenals, our parasympathetic and sympathetic systems. All of these systems have a part to play when it comes to chronic pain. And so because it is a whole system approach and because our system is really meant for survival, it means that we've gotten really good at learning things. And we got really good, if you live with pain long enough, at learning more pain. Now, I know that sounds a little bit difficult to wrap your head around, but just like riding a bike for the very first time, whether you're using training wheels or not, it's really difficult and it's really wobbly, and chances are pretty good you're going to fall off. But the more you do it, the more you practice, the more neural pathways you are creating along this one skill set, the easier it becomes and the better you get at it. And the better those systems work together to make it happen. It's the same thing with pain. If you live with pain long enough, all these systems get really good at not only recognizing pain, but sending pain signals and sending along pain behaviors like avoidance, like wincing, like insomnia, like digestion, inflammation, you name it. And then, as far as where is pain processed in the brain, well, just like it's processed throughout all of our systems, it is processed throughout our brain as well, through our organizing and preparing movement areas, our concentration areas, our focusing areas, our problem solving and memory areas of the brain, our sensory discrimination. The list goes on and on and on. So if you've ever wondered why you have brain fog, have you ever had that feeling of being really challenged to just make a decision when you are in pain? This is why. When you ever were unsure why your emotions were so hard to control when you were in a pain flare, this is why. The neuroimmune system has a lot of research coming out on it right now. We know that both pain and our immune system work very close together. They work in harmony to accomplish many bodily functions. And the neuroimmune system really monitors, transmits, processes, predicts, and responds to information about potential danger or threats. So just like this gentleman, if you're watching with me, I have in front of me a picture of a gentleman who has multiple screens in front of him, and he's really analyzing data. And that's what our nervous system and brain does really well. It is always seeking out that information. And those data points are always coming in. You may not notice it, but they're always coming in. And so the brain is busy, busy, busy interpreting those signals. When you have chronic pain and you have a sensitized nervous system, many of those signals coming in are deemed to be dangerous. For example, if you were sitting outside and you were one who lives with pain and there was a change in the weather and you felt like your pain was starting to amplify, the pressure change on your receptors on your skin that can read this pressure change are sending signals saying danger, 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 just from a change in the weather. Essential pain fact number 4. Context matters and hurt doesn't always mean harm. The Tale of Two Nails. This one I learned from Dr. Rachel Softness, but it comes from research papers from Fisher et al. In 1995. And this one is used a lot to help explain context when it comes to pain. So there is this gentleman who worked on a construction site, and if you're with me on YouTube, you have an image in front of you of a nail, a very large nail going through a steel-toed boot. This gentleman was working on the construction site and he jumped off of a ledge and onto that very large nail. He then saw that nail poke up through the top of his boot and the pain was intense. They sent him to the hospital. They gave him 2 of the strongest types of pain medication and this poor guy was really struggling with pain. The doctor slowly, gently removed the boot and to everyone's surprise, there was not a scratch anywhere. This nail, believe it or not, just slid in between his toes and created no damage whatsoever. And then there's this other gentleman, and this is the actual photo as well. He was also working on a construction site and was working with a nail gun. And for some reason, this nail gun dislodged, and he saw the nail land in the wall across from him. And so he went about his day and thought, okay, no big deal. And he went to work and he did his thing, felt a little bit of discomfort in his jaw, wasn't sure why. Went back to work the next day, went home, went back to work again, and that pain started to increase a little bit more so. So he went to the dentist because he was feeling pain in his jaw. He's like, maybe I've got a toothache or something. So he went and they had the image done, and this is what they found. So the nail gun had dislodged, and he had catastrophic injury into his skull, but felt no pain. Or if any pain, it was very mild. Like he was able to work for days without, feeling too much pain. So why on earth does this happen? On one end, we have no tissue damage, but obvious pain. And on the other, we have obvious tissue damage, but no pain. So how does this work? Well, we do know that the gentleman on the construction site whose nail went through his boot, he could see the nail there. And his brain was able to determine that that is dangerous. That is not safe. I know what that looks like, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you pain so that you don't move and so we don't incur any more damage. And he was fine. This other gentleman who had this nail lodged into his skull, who didn't know it was there, saw the nail go across the room to the wall in front of him, and his brain determined it to be safe because he saw the nail dislodge. And there was no room for concern until he saw this image, of course, and then the pain would have definitely increased. So context matters. Any sensory data coming in, and there is so much of that data coming in every single second of your lives, needs to be evaluated by your nervous system. Your nervous system, of course, being your spinal cord and brain. And this evaluation involves complex memory, reasoning, emotional processes, and if there's any consequences as well. Ultimately, pain depends on many different factors, and it is the brain that decides whether something hurts or not, 100% of the time, with no exceptions. And so when your doctor is trying to say to you, your brain's involved or there's nothing wrong with you, what they are trying to say ultimately is that the brain really is the one that decides if this is something to be concerned about. And if it is, I'm going to send a pain signal. Hurt doesn't always equal harm. When the tissues have healed, or you've heard from the doctor, everything looks fine, but you still have pain, it can be very easy to assume that the pain is a direct result of tissue damage or an acute issue because they often feel very much the same. With chronic pain, our systems become sensitized as they overprotect, making pain feel worse, which we associate with damage. This is where pain education is an important part of your recovery and the ability to make informed choices. If we know that we are dealing with this sensitized nervous system or these overactive pain pathways, then we can start to make informed decisions to help you on your path forward. But if we don't understand that there's context matters, that your nervous system is an integral part of the pain experience, that your immune system is a part of this process too, then it's really hard to treat chronic pain properly. Essential pain fact number 5. Our tissues have incredible capacity to heal given the right environment. Tissues usually have a set time for healing. So if you do experience an injury, like a broken bone, it should take about 6 weeks for that bone to heal. Unless you have an underlying issue like an autoimmune disease, cancer, anything that might prevent that healing from happening. Once the healing is complete, but there's still pain, we are now into chronic pain. And it can sometimes take only 3 months or beyond. All of our systems work together to promote healing, and pain is just one of the systems. And that is also where our immune system and our pain system are really linked together, because our immune system is very much responsible for that healing process. Supporting the health of all of our systems, our pain system included, we can support better healing outcomes. So, for example, our sleep. If we can impact our sleep and get a better night's sleep, we are creating a better ecosystem for healing. If we can help to desensitize the nervous system, we are creating a better environment for healing. If we can ensure that you're getting good food into your stomach, we are creating the best ecosystem for healing that we possibly can. If we are working to create a safe environment, a safe space for you, we are doing the work to create a better ecosystem for better healing outcomes. We know there are 2 unstoppable forces, change and healing. You cannot get in the way of healing unless you continue to keep creating those forces on the tissues that created the injury. So for those of you who have an injury, but feel they need to keep pushing through, and yes, I have those in my family, we need to allow the body time to heal. Movement is important, but it's got to be very strategic, okay, so that you can truly heal, so that you're not going to move into chronic pain unnecessarily. Here are some key takeaways from this podcast. So thank you for listening to the very end. We are adaptable, bioplastic, and built for survival, and that includes all of our systems. Pain is a protective alarm system that promotes healing right away. We learn pain and become quite good at it, which is the sensitization I keep talking about, which we will talk more about in the next episode. Chronic pain becomes overprotective and prevents healing. Overprotection happens due to chemical changes in the body due to this bioplasticity. And finally, if bioplasticity can create change in our pain systems with chronic pain, it can also change it to become desensitized. So, because we are highly adaptable, which means we are bioplastic, we can change, we can adapt the things that led us to where we are now. We can work to unwind or unravel so that it's not as painful. And that is where the hope lies. Thanks so much for tuning in. So, as you likely know, the very first step is to understand how these things work. But that information will only take you so far. So here is what I want you to do next. If you'd like to know more about this central sensitization, or if you might also be dealing with overactive pain pathways, and that's what's keeping you stuck in debilitating pain, I'm going to encourage you to go to my website, pain2possibilities.com, where at the very beginning of the page, you will find a button that says take the quiz here. Once you take that quiz, and if you are suspicious that you might have these overactive pain pathways, then the next step is to schedule a call with me. Then what we can do is take a really good look at what it is you're doing right now, what's working, what's not working, so that we can finally get you moving forward on your path to recovery. You will also find this quiz in the show notes to this podcast. And as always, share this podcast with whomever you think might benefit from it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.